We work for Mr. Tunstall as regulators. We regulate any stealing of his property. We're damn good, too. Mr. Tunstall's got a soft spot for runaways, derelicts, vagrant types. But you can't be any geek off the street. Gotta be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep. Go on, get!
How is it already fucking June? Sorry, everybody. Welcome to 30 years ago this month, the June edition, June 2024, which means we are talking about June 1994. I feel like we just did May. I guess a month ago. Also, do not adjust your set. This is not a filter. This is my real hair. I colored my hair purple. Why? Fuck you, that's why. But anyway, welcome back to 30 Years Ago This Month, the show where I highlight this particular month, 30 years ago, what happened, pop culture-ish type things, mostly the stuff that I was into back then when I would have been 16 years old. And so let's just fucking get into it. We always kick things off by talking about the number one albums in the country for this particular month in 1994. And for the first week of June 1994, the number one album in the country was the Crow soundtrack. This is one of those interesting months where there's 4 different number ones, and I actually owned at the time 3 of them. That's very weird. But as I said before, I was very into the soundtrack for The Crow. I still like a lot of it. Never really that into the movie, but I do need to revisit it. But there's still a lot of amazing shit on that soundtrack. But for the second week of June 1994, an album that not only was I not into, I still don't understand how anybody was into this album. The Sign by Ace of Base. Another example of how my finger is never on the pulse of popular stuff. Sometimes I can see something and go, I get why that's huge. And then there's other things like Ace of Base where it still baffles me to this day. But for the third week of June 1994, the number one album in the country was Ill Communication by the Beastie Boys. A big fucking album. Everybody loved Sabotage. Everybody still loves Sabotage. And that entire album fucking rules. And for the fourth week of June 1994, the number one album in the country was the second album from Stone Temple Pilots, which is called Purple, which means that they were on the number one album in the country twice this month, because Big Empty is also on the Crow soundtrack. So way to go, Stone Temple Pilots. And we'll talk about that album some more a little bit later, because it did come out in this month in 1994. But moving on from the top albums to the top movies. All right, now we're getting into, look, I think I've said it, like last year when we were doing 1993, I was already alluding to the fact that I didn't see a lot of movies, and we're getting to the point now in 94 where I'm like, one of these movies, I don't even remember it coming out. But the number one movie for the first weekend of June 1994 was, once again, The Flintstones. I just remember thinking it was garbage and haven't seen it since, so I don't know, but great. And for the second week of June 1994, you're all going to be kind of surprised, but I've never seen this movie all the way through. The movie Speed with Keanu Reeves. I'm a big Keanu Reeves fan. For some reason, nothing about this movie attracted me at the time and has not brought me back since. I might change that. I like a good 90s action flick, so maybe I should. But at the time, for some reason, it just was not on my radar at all. Speaking of not on my radar, the number one movie in the country for the third week of June 1994 was called Wolf, starring Jack Nicholson and Michelle Pfeiffer. Is that right? I think. And I watched the trailer for the movie before I did this video because I was like, what the fuck is this movie? And even the trailer did not ring any bells. It's like a Wolfman movie with Jack Nicholson, and I don't know what happened with my memory, but I zero memory of this movie ever coming out. Did anybody see it? Is it any good? You tell me. And for the fourth week of June 1994, a movie that I also have never seen, but that will be no surprise to a lot of you out there, The Lion King. Great movie for Disney peeps, which is not me. Even when my daughter was younger, she didn't want to watch shit like that. So I've never seen The Lion King. Okay, moving on to the albums released in June 1994. So we're starting on the 7th of June. This first one is a very, very special album to me, to the channel. If you've been paying attention to a lot of my shit, you know this album if you didn't already know it. On June 7th, the album, can you see that? The album Stress from Stompbox was released. Hasn't been released on vinyl. Hey, music on vinyl peeps. Somebody send this to the music on vinyl peeps. You got to be able to get the files of this and put a vinyl one of this out. Plus, this band, this was the only thing they ever released. And then, flash forward to 30 years later, this year is the first new release from Stompbox. They got back together and they released an EP called Final Summer. It doesn't sound totally like this, but it's still great, energetic rock music. This right here is way more alt metal, very groovy, riffy, helmety. It's a fucking banger, guys. And it includes the song, which was the single, which was called No Woods, which is a fucking banger. But I am of the mind that Disturbed owe them some money for ripping off their riff. Because you got one that goes, and then the other one goes,
Ding 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 ding. Ding ding ding. That's the way theirs goes. Ours goes ding 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 ding. Ding 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 ding.
Go listen to them back to back. You'll know what I'm saying. And I did an interview with Eric, the lead vocalist from Stompbox. Man, has it been like 2 years now since I did that? It's been a little bit. But he confirmed that Disturbed, somebody from Disturbed, did know who Stompbox were and had their album. So, anyway, Stompbox Stress came out on the 7th, June 1994. And the world has been a better place ever since because of it. All right, also released on the 7th of June 1994, Purple from Stone Temple Pilots. This was a really anticipated album for me because I was a fan of Core, and the song Big Empty I thought was fucking great. And then the first single off of this, Vaseline, also a great song. But to be fair, those are probably two of my least favorite songs on the album. This album is, I might even go on record and say that I think for this kind of album, this is up there with Dirt as just like pretty fucking perfect for that early 90s heavy alternative sound. Yep, I can't think of anything on it that isn't a banger. Purple from Stone Temple Pilots. Last but not least, for the 7th of June 1994, Regulate, the G-Funk era from Warren G. Man, I think this is one of the best hip-hop albums, especially mainstream hip-hop, of the 90s. It's so fucking good. I'm sure everybody knows the song Regulate. It's just one of those songs. At the beginning of the episode, I included that clip from Young Guns that's at the beginning of Regulate. And I shit you not. If I hear that clip, even if I'm watching Young Guns, I'm going to pause the movie because then I have to do the entire fucking song. Because I just hear that you can't be any geek off the street. You got to be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. Earn your keep. Regulators, mount up. It was a clear black night, a clear white moon. Warren G was on the streets trying to consume some skirts for the eve so I can get some funk. Rolling with my ride, chilling on alone. Just hit the east side on the LBC, on a mission trying to find Mr. Warren G. Seen a car full of girls, they don't need to tweak. All you skirts know what's up with 213. I'm tweaking into a whole new era. G-Funk, step to this, I dare ya. Funk on a whole new level. The rhythm is the bass and the bass is the treble. Chords, strings, we brings melody. G-Funk, where rhythm is life and life is rhythm. If you know like I know, you don't want to step to this. It's the G-Funk era, funked out with a gangster twist. If you smoke like I smoke, then you're high like every day. And if your ass is a buster, 213 will regulate. Boom, boom. Okay, we can move on now. Funny enough, that's not even my favorite song on this album. The song This DJ is one of my favorite rap songs of the 90s. Killer album. If you haven't already heard it, go listen to Warren G. Regulate. Okay, moving on to the 7th of June, 1994. Suicidal for Life. Suicidal Tendencies. Look, I love Suicidal Tendencies. Every album. I love every album. But this album cover makes me giggle every fucking time. Because, like, what was the idea behind the album cover? It's like, look, I'm going to be walking down this hallway, and then you're going to say, hey, Mike, and I'm going to turn around and go, what the fuck? And then that's the album cover. Because it's what the, and why is it just Mike? I mean, it's always been baffling that was the album cover. Anyway, this is the last Suicidal album with Rocky George. And with Rob Trujillo. Yeah, Rob Trujillo didn't play on any other Suicidal after this. This album's fucking great. It gets overlooked because, like, the album before, Art of Rebellion, they got a little more experimental, which I fucking love that album so much. But this one, they guess what they did? They gave us something different. And this is more like straight to the point, heavy, a lot of fucks. They say the word, he says the word fuck like a lot of times in this album. I mean, the fucking track list. Track 2, don't give a fuck. Track 3, no fucking problem. Track 4, suicidal motherfucker. Track 5, fucked up just right. Track 6, no bullshit. I mean, and there is no bullshit on this album, ladies and gentlemen. It is a blast. Okay, Suicidal for Life, featuring annoyed Mike Muir on the cover. All right, moving on to the 21st of June, 1994. Now, if there's an album on this list, because at the time, you know, I got the Stompbox album because I saw the video on MTV. But if you're talking about an album, like if I was going to say the most anticipated album for me when I was 16 in this particular month, it was 100% this album, Betty from Helmet. The third Helmet album. This is this is like a 1993 like 10-inch that actually has like extra tracks on it, and the extra tracks fucking kick ass too. This is not my favorite Helmet album. That would be Meantime, but this is that's probably a close second for me. But I've said it a lot of times. Helmet was such an influential band for me as a musician, guitar player. Just for the rest of my life, I've been trying to write cool Helmet riffs in a lot of my songs. But I love this album so much. And this was, if I had to pick one album for June of 1994, it would be this one. All right, also on the 21st of June, 1994, I don't have this album on vinyl. Let's Go from Rancid. This is an interesting album for me because I'm not really a Rancid fan. I somehow like got into this album. It may have even been a year after it came out that I finally kind of warmed up to it. And it's the only album of theirs that I still kind of go back to sometimes. It's probably because like there was, and it still happens today, but there was punk that I was into, and then there was punk that seemed like it was a punk rock Halloween costume. And that's what Rancid always seemed like to me the first time. And you would see the people that were into Rancid and be like, why are you dressing up like the guy that's on the bus in Star Trek IV, The Voyage Home? It's like the guy that was supposed to be the silly punk guy in the Star Trek movie is the look that these guys are going for. But anyway, I thought this album was fun. I still think it's pretty fun. But Rancid's not really my thing. But you know, to each their own, they say, right? Okay, last but certainly not least for the 21st of June and for June as a whole for album releases, Kiss My Ass. That wasn't a request. The Kiss compilation of covers, classic Kiss regrooved. I think this is fun as hell. It's a Kiss cover album, but it's like a Kiss curated. They did it themselves. If you don't remember, it's got a lot of great shit on here. I mean, you've got Anthrax doing She. And it's even got Garth Brooks who's singing Hard Luck Woman, and it's pretty appropriate. Actually, it's pretty cool. There's even a one-time band that got together for this. They're called Shandy's Addiction, and they do Calling Dr. Love. And that's got Maynard Keenan from Tool on vocals, Tom Morello on guitar, Billy Gould from Faith No More on bass, and then Brad Wilk from Rage on drums. So it's pretty cool. A one-time band got together to do a cover song here. Anyway, it's a fun compilation, and they even released a home video, which does have some of the like making of this compilation, but also just has a shitload of old Kiss clips on it. That's also a very fun VHS if you can get your hands on it. Maybe they put it out on DVD at some point. I'm sure they did. It's fucking Kiss. All right, so that is it for June of 1994. But as usual, let's head back another 10 years and see if we can find anything to talk about. Okay, so June of 1984. Now, when I do these 40 years ago things, sometimes there's not much to talk about because at the time I was 6 years old and I was already getting into music. And so there is some music to talk about, but some of it isn't stuff that necessarily carried on with me throughout my life. So it's not very interesting to chat about. But this is an album that I wasn't into at the time, but it's a fucking classic, and it's one that I found my way into eventually, as a lot of people did. Purple Rain from Prince came out in June of 1984. The movie and the soundtrack, I believe, both came out in June. And I've actually only seen the movie a couple times, and a lot of people say that it's really bad, but maybe I just enjoy the 80s-ness of it. So I actually really think it's great. Obviously, it's not as good as the soundtrack. The soundtrack's fucking amazing. To be honest, I kind of miss... I know a lot. I know a lot of artists throughout the years have been in their own movies, and most of the time it's shit. But I kind of miss that. I don't know. I like the idea of a rock star or a pop star or somebody starring in their own movie. I don't know why that fascinates me. It just does. But this is an amazing soundtrack. You probably already fucking know. Oh, mine has a... Does mine have a poster? Mine has a poster on the inside. I didn't remember that. And it smells like 1984. How appropriate. Purple hair, purple rain. I didn't plan that at all. Let's just pretend that I did. Anyway, that is the end of this episode of 30 Years Ago this month. Thank you for watching. I'm glad you guys still enjoy my shenanigans. So I appreciate you being here and watching. Put your comments down below. Obviously, there are other albums that are noteworthy to other people that came out that I didn't talk about. So feel free to put those in the comments below. Sometimes it's just because I don't care for the albums. Other times I literally forget. I'm not perfect, ladies and gentlemen. It may seem like it, but I'm not. Okay, that's it. Thank you very much for watching, and I will see you all again next month.